Today's episode is, if you feel like you're getting kicked every day whilst trying to raise money and finding out how to raise money, we've just got a few reminders that might be timely at this.
Welcome to the How to Raise Money podcast for anyone who wants to raise other people's money for a business or property venture. Right now, there has never been more money on the planet, and there has never been more opportunity. This podcast will help you put the two together. So, if you need money for your business or property proposals from banks, lenders, angels, whales, or dragons, this is the podcast for you.
That's good. Hi, welcome to another episode. What is it? Oh yeah, the How to Raise Money podcast with me, Ray McLennan,
and it's with me, Nigel T-Best. If you can hear anything in the background, Ray is multitasking. He's vacuuming the house, apparently in the background.
No, I told my wife, so I'm going into that room to record a podcast, and suddenly I hear this vacuum going off. It's like that's why we're laughing, in case you wondered. But anyway, yeah, I know you come here for the banter.
Well, I know that you only let your wife out to do the household chores as well. Yeah. So, well done, Ray. Yeah, very, very generous of you to allocate her that task this morning. Yeah. Anyway, Ray, apart from the vacuuming, how the devil are you?
How the devil, indeed. The devil seems to infiltrate everything. Oh, God.
Folks, when we just started the call, I said, Ray, how are you? He says, oh, another day, another kicking, or something like that. So he's one of the, right, today's episode is, if you feel like you're getting kicked every day whilst trying to raise money and finding out how to raise money, we've just got a few reminders that might be timely at this point as to how to sort of prep yourself. Because, Ray, I don't know about you, but I'm being inundated at the moment with these things of emails saying, apply online and get, £300,000 in just 2 seconds by pressing one button.
No credit scores, no this, no that.
Yeah, no experience needed, nothing, no intelligence. All you need is a loaf of bread and a piece of string or something, and we'll give you $1 million. It's just, Ray, it's everywhere, isn't it? I just put in, before we came on, what are the current problems for people trying to raise money at the moment for businesses or property? And the first 4 are adverts. And here we go. I'll just read out the, adverts offering you money. So we will lend you money. So here we go. Apply in 2 minutes, limited company only, and you can borrow up to $500,000 on that one. Business loans from 25,000 to 2 million, and access the funds in 24 hours.
Well, I like that one.
Up to 500,000 in under 24 hours, designed for small businesses, and then fund your small business a free eligibility check for loans from 1,000 to 15 million. So, I mean, it seems, Ray, that it's a piece of the proverbial piss to get a loan, in minutes, and we're just out there. We're down at the Apple store buying everything we can. We're booking that cruise. We're away, because we're going to run our business remotely. We haven't got a Scooby-Doo what we're doing, but it doesn't matter because I've got 2 million in the bank account. Woohoo!
Well, never mind. 2 curmudgeonly old cynics are here to tell you why you probably won't be able to access that in its current in the current form, I suppose. But there are 1 or 2 things you need to do. So yeah, we're gonna talk about that for a change, rather than kicking the banks that we normally do. Although I have to say, Nigel, the feedback on that has been phenomenal. We've had some good email. I've had some phone calls. I've met people at various events, and they've said, "Oh, I listened to your podcast. It's fantastic." Yada yada. And then you get cornered with some legal challenge.
I know, but I mean, Ray, some of the threads of some of the help that you've been giving people, particularly on just how to approach a legal matter, a legal dispute, some of the templates that we've got for people, or some of the set processes that you could follow. I mean, you've absolutely been helping people who, up until that point, had really felt like this is the end. So, public service. Well, who knew? I'll put you up for a gong in the New Year's honours list. Hey, how
Well, I mean, I suppose some things that people find very difficult can be simple for somebody who's done it quite a lot. And obviously, if you've got lots of templates and experience and been around the block a couple of times, something that's new to somebody is kind of, not so disdaunting. Is that a word? Disdaunting? I don't know. Anyway, it's not so bad for me.
right?
So usually
Daunting.
That's it. Not
That's
distracting. What we're talking about. Distracting and daunting. And sometimes it needs a fresh pair of eyes to take a look at something. And as well as helping people to get through those particular challenges, some other stuff has cropped up as well, which I'm currently helping with. And again, when we get permission, we'll share those things. But right now, they're kind of in the middle of it. And nothing is done quickly these days. Everything takes time. Although, having said that, if you go into London and you don't pay your ULEZ fee, you'll soon find out how quickly a system can work that's been fine-tuned to extract money from people for, where there doesn't seem to be, well, there is no victim to this alleged crime, and yet they still carry on with their policy of extracting money from the motorist. But then hasn't that always been the way? Anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say, anyone watching on YouTube, and we are at How to Raise Money on YouTube, you're probably thinking, God, Nigel looks really rather splendid today, nattily dressed and all the rest of it. He's obviously done his hair, forgot to put it on, but he must have done his hair. I'm in my scruffs, Ray, because I'm down at a house that we got recently. It will feature on a separate YouTube channel. I'm going to be doing something. So I've been recording what we've been doing, but just as an aside, folks, although it was funded through a limited company using pension money with a connected loan into my limited company and being able to purchase it and all the rest of it, I still had to go through what we're going to talk about, even though, and I had some interesting conversations, Ray, I had to give a reasoned argument why I was making a pledge to myself that I would do this on the basis that I wouldn't let myself down. And I had to fully understand what I was letting myself commit myself to do in order to repay myself in the future, because obviously I don't want to undermine myself by doing it myself. Folks, when you get into SAS funds, pension trustees and all the rest of it, there are lots of hoops you still have to go through because you've got to prove it to HMRC and other things. But the majority of it is you shouldn't be trying to trick yourself into lending yourself money because you haven't told yourself exactly what you're going to do with it. It's a weird one. But anyway, yeah, you still have to kind of go through these points, even when you're doing it for yourself, in order to sort of prove that it's a genuine sort of thing. So when you're thinking, oh, this doesn't apply to me because I'm doing something different, it's a great, 4-step checklist that might just help you sort of be a little bit more realistic about things.
I should say, Nigel, that if I wasn't jumping through hoops for various lawyers and things like that, I wouldn't be getting any exercise. That's how many hoops I'm jumping through. And my lawyer, he gets his exercise by jumping to conclusions. So anyway.
He's here all week, folks. He's here all week.
I'm here all week. All right. So challenges in raising capital. All right. So we've got 4. So we'll do a couple of them each. Do you want to kick off, Nigel?
Yeah, I guess the first one is always, do you have a clear vision? So what you tend to find, Ray, we always find this, don't we? Whenever you're talking to entrepreneurs, and I'm guessing that majority of our listeners here on the podcast and viewers on the YouTube channel are those people who are wanting to get up and get out there, and they're wanting to sort of better themselves. They're not wanting the 9-to-5 steady employment, status quo type existence. So what we tend to find is they are of the entrepreneurial mindset, which means generally that they're passionate. And when you're talking to them, my God, it's like blah at you, isn't it? It's almost like they vomit their ideas all over you.
What is your idea? Let me tell you.
Yeah. And never mind that. Hey, whilst I just gave you my opening sentence, I've thought of 3 other things I could do as well. Let me add those in. Let me mix it up, stir it with a big spoon, and serve you a big plate of gobbledygook. That's easy for you to say. And, you know, and you leave it at that. And I think the hardest thing, and I heard someone say that the best form of editing is taking stuff out. So whatever you've written down as your vision,
that's it.
Yeah, whatever you've written down as your vision, whatever you've got as your business pitch, see if you can take stuff out and do the old coffee queue test, which is if you were in a queue for getting a coffee and you tap the person on the shoulder in front of you, apart from getting ready to duck as they're totally spooked and they throw a left hook at you or something. But if you could just tap them on the shoulder and say, excuse me, could I just give you 20 seconds of your time? If I said something to you, would you tell me whether you understand what I'm on about or not? And if you gave your pitch, your 20-second vision, clear vision, if the person went, all right, yeah, I got you. Yeah, I understand that. I know what you're doing. Then you get into the right point. The problem is we tend to start with too much, and it's always right. It comes to me because I'm involved in a lot of things like yourself. When people say, what do you do? It's really hard to sort of do it. And the brain is an enormous consumer of calories, and your brain makes a very quick decision as to whether this is of use to them. And if it's not, the eyes glaze over and the brain says, shut down, don't bother listening.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So what I've started saying at the moment is, well, what's your job? And I said, my job is to make other people's lives or jobs easier. And people, oh, right. Okay. How do you do that? And then I lose them at the next sentence as I go launching to all the things that I do. But yeah, it's this thing, the passion, we love it. People love it. Investors love it. But they also want this clear vision, this clarity, which gives them that confidence that you are focused. Yep. If you give loads of things going off in lots of different directions, and then I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do that, and all the rest of it, you get people sort of going, ooh, I don't know if they're going to stick at this one thing. So if I'm lending money for this, they're talking about, you know, I want to lend them money for a property, but they're talking about buying ice cream vans and they're talking about opening gyms. What's all this? Are they going to focus on this thing so I get my money back? Yeah. And I think, folks, if you're a bit like me and what I'd call a scattered brain in terms of lots of ideas, lots of things that you could do, the real secret here is hone it in to one clear vision, specifically with the benefit to the investor of your vision and why lending money to you and this vision is of benefit to the investor. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges. It's my biggest challenge, Ray. I don't know if it's the same for you. I think you're a bit more organized and a bit clearer in things.
Yeah. Well, I've had, in fact, 4 instances this week where I've had people have contacted me because obviously I used to work with Angel's Den. We had thousands of investors and we used to see lots of pitches, thousands and thousands of pitches. So there are still lawyers that come out the woodwork after many, many years and say, oh, you know, a guy came into me with an idea and I thought of you. Would you mind taking a few minutes to look at it? And I'm like, no, send it over. Get him to stick it on a 1 page of A4 at the very least and fire it across. Or get them to give me a call and I'll have a quick chat with them and I'll give them some pointers, that sort of thing. So we've had 4 this week. Now, I received 3 A4 bits of paper and I received 1 phone call. And they all had one thing in common. After I'd read them or listened to them, I didn't have a clue what they were on about. I genuinely did not know. I should be looking for an email that I sent back to a lawyer there because he said, oh, I got this. And I sent it back and I said, look, I'm really sorry, but I have no, and it was a presentation I got sent. So I got sent an A4 bit of paper with the outline, apparently, and then a presentation, which was PowerPoint, was done very well, very professional looking. But after the first 4 or 5 slides, I still didn't have a clue what it was on about. And that made me skip to the end to see if there was a summary, but there wasn't. And then you get that sort of, I've lost the will to live at this point. So I just had to go back and say, look, this doesn't make any sense. I don't know what you're selling, what you're doing, how much you're trying to raise. I know nothing about anything. Can you just be nice and concise, please? And I suppose there's an example I read and I have used a number of times. You know, when you get that, so what is it you do? And somebody proceeds to tell you for 20 minutes. The example I use is the guy who I was talking to at an event, and I said, "What do you do?" And he said, "I'm in IT." I said, "What is that involved?" And he started going off and telling me all about all the things they did and the people, and just it's just sort of this constant mouth just constantly moving. You know that way you're looking at somebody and your eyes glaze and you can see their mouth moving, but you're thinking about lunch or dinner. Hold on a minute. Good grief. Did you hear that dog barking in the background? Normally, you didn't hear it. All right. Normally quiet as a mouse. But anyway, where was I? Oh, yeah. Your eyes glaze over. And the example with the guy was, well, I work in IT. So after I said, well, could you put it into one sentence what you do? He couldn't. And I said, well, try and narrow it down. Who's your best customer? What's the best thing you do? What's the most profitable thing you do, et cetera, et cetera. So the example then was, now when asked, what do you do? He says, I help medium-sized law firms to find and keep high-paying clients using paid Facebook ads. Nice and simple, right? Of course, that begs the question, oh, do you help accountants? Yes, I do. Oh, do you do anything other than Facebook ads? Yes, I do. You see that point, you're right in there. So by having a clear vision, so he's got quite a clear vision of what he wants to do. Now, why did he say that? Well, that's his best client. You know, the best clients for him were medium-sized law firms. For other people, it's obviously going to be different, but that was for him. How did he find his best client? He looked at the people that had paid him over the last couple of years. He broke it down into top 10 and bottom 10. And as you will discover, there is a thing called the Pareto principle, 80-20. He discovered 80% of his income came from 20% of his clients, and 80% of his problems came from 20% of his clients. And they're usually the bottom clients. So one of the things I do try and encourage people to do is take a look at that and say, well, look at your clients, look at who the best ones are, keep them and get rid of the worst ones. But that's deviating slightly from your clear vision part. Having a clear vision, yep, vital, and vitally communicating it concisely. And when I say concisely, I mean in sort of 20 seconds or definitely under 30 seconds if you can do it. You know,
because I mean, Ray, if you were thinking, if someone's saying, look, I need to borrow some money for a buy-to-let, because I still think there's value in buy-to-lets. If you said, look, I'm looking to raise £100,000 on this property to do a simple buy-to-let where the tenant, the average rent is, you know, X per month, giving a 10% rent yield or return on that money, and I'm looking to do that. People sort of go, right, okay, I've got the concept. You're buying a house. You could describe it 2-bed terrace house in this location with this rental yield, and I'm looking for someone to invest in that property with me. The benefit to you is I will pay you, you know, interest of this amount. And people can get their head around it. If you're talking about sort of ethereal sort of, well, I've found this space that was brownfield and I'm looking at this and I think there could be 15 different types of tenants and all the rest of it. People are sort of going, bit woolly, not too sure.
Yeah.
Do you actually have a property? Does it have running water? What is it got a roof? What are you talking about? These tenants, are they commercial or residential? You know, what is it? And so it really is, Ray, whenever we talk to people about property, show them a picture of a property and say, what could you do with it? It's like, whoa,
yeah,
you know, 15 different strategies. And you just go, okay, that's great. Now pick the one that you want to present to a potential investor. That's the secret, folks. Have that clear vision. And they could, just like in your example there, Ray, they could say, well, what if you can't get that tenant? Okay, well, my second strategy is this type of tenant, because there is this. Okay, what if you can't get that? Well, my next strategy is I'm going to refurb it. And at the moment, the current prices of other properties are this. There's a 10% gain on the refurb. So you don't give them 5 sort of things to begin with. You give them 1. And if they question it, you say, well, I do have that as my backup plan. I do have that as a backup plan. Just like you were saying with the chap on the paid Facebook ads, Do you do it for accountants? Do you do it for dentists? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So you get them with the key headline. I've got the concept. I get where you're going. Clear vision. Thanks very much. I now want to ask further questions. So
now that's segued nicely into point number 2 of the 4 points. So here we're talking about 4 challenges in raising capital. Nigel has said the first one, which is you don't have a clear vision, and we talked about that. And number 2 is you have less knowledge about the market. Now, if you and what Nigel alluded to there was when somebody says, well, what's plan B? What's plan C? The more knowledge you have about a particular market, obviously, the better it is. And if you can demonstrate that knowledge quite easily through experience, or we'll touch about other ways that you can demonstrate that knowledge. But if you can demonstrate that knowledge through experience, that's great. But quite a lot of people, especially startups and companies that are just getting going. And by the way, when you talked earlier on about, entrepreneurs and they're all over the place, with the visions and coming up with ideas, we need these people in society. We absolutely do. And I think it's a bit unfair because entrepreneurs have to be jacks of all trade. And there is there's an expression that says jack of all trades, master of none, but they have to be jacks of all trade. They've got to be able to market. They've got to know about accounting. They've got to know about the particular sector they're in and so on. And that's slightly unfair, but that's the way it is. So entrepreneurs have to learn a bit about quite a lot, but they must have knowledge about the market that they are going after and that they are raising money for.
Yeah, and Ray, we're going to come back to when you say jack of all trades, we're going to pick up on that on point number 4. But I mean, this is knowledge of your market, folks. There's nothing worse than you saying, oh, I've got this business and it's, do you know what? I've invented this thing. I'm going to call it the wheel. And I need £5 million to set up a factory to start making these wheels. And you just, the very first person you speak to and said, well, you do know the wheel's been around for thousands of years. And you go, oh, is it? Yeah. Oh, no. And
that's what's known, sorry to butt in, Nigel, but that's what's known as a prior art check. Prior art. So when you come up with an idea or a concept, and we used to do this because I did the intellectual property at the law firm, people would come in and say, oh, I've just come up with this great idea and it's blah, blah, blah. And I'll say, okay, have you checked to see if anyone else is doing it? Well, now it's much easier now because you can do a Google search, you can dive quite deeply. But in those days, there was a place in Scotland called the Mitchell Library, which is where all the patent documents were held. And you had to go there. And they had these machines that, I can't remember what they're called.
Microfiche.
That's it. Yeah, it was a microfiche. You had to scroll through that. Oh, God. Anyway, so a prior art search. So in other words, has anybody else done it? Has anyone else thought of it? Chances are they have. But bear in mind that most ideas, you talk about standing on the shoulders of giants. Most ideas are the next iteration of a previous idea. So it's not uncommon for there to be cross-pollination. In other words, if you come up with a concept and it does borrow from previous concepts, then it's quite simple for a patent lawyer or a lawyer or a trademark attorney or whatever it is to piggyback onto that and include it in the patent process. So don't be thinking that, just because someone else has done it, you now cannot do it. People do things in a different way. They improve things. And quite often business plans that come to me and ideas that come to me certainly are improvements of previous things that have gone on. And that's perfectly fine. And again, if you go back to the world of property and about knowledge and so on, there's very little that's new under the sun. People are looking at different sectors and they're looking at different strategies to property. And as you said earlier, Nigel, you can look at a building and think, oh, that would make a great such and such. And you can talk to someone else and they'll say, oh, no, it could make this, it could make that. I mean, I recall going a few years back, sitting in on the commercial conversion training, which was a few days, run in those days by Glenn Delve. And of course, now it's still run. There are courses around the country that you can go on, but commercial conversion course. The great thing about these courses is it opens your eyes to other possibilities, and you can come out and suddenly you see opportunities everywhere. That's the great thing about getting knowledge of a sector, is you start to see opportunities absolutely everywhere. So, we're talking about challenges in raising capital. 4 points. The first point being you don't have a clear vision, so make sure you've got a clear vision. And the second point is you have to have knowledge about the particular market or sector that you're going to be in. And that knowledge just has to be a little bit better than the investor that you're talking to.
Yeah, I mean, the third one, Ray, leading on to that is, again, a knowledge gap potentially, which is you're not sure about the amount of money that you need. You're a Scotsman, I'm a Yorkshireman, so we've both got short arms, deep pockets, and you know, everything we think is way overpriced, way too much, and all the rest of it, and we're going to set aside 8 shillings and threepence for that particular sort of item. I mean, I'm in a couple of Facebook groups just because they make me chuckle, which is tradespeople.
There's no other reason to be in a Facebook group.
Well, yeah, no, true. But they make me chuckle because they copy emails or other posts from people requesting services from trades, and there'd be things like got a 6-bed HMO, wanting it decorated throughout, just in plain white, only in white walls, white ceilings, so easy job, 300 quid, who wants it? and these guys, just some of the comments of the say painters and decorators on that sort of thing, it just make me chuckle on that. So yeah, what's our tendency? 2 things. We always underestimate what we need, what's involved in terms of cost, and we underestimate how long it's going to take. And 2 things that any investors are going to want is something that stacks up. Now, bear in mind that if you're going to an investor, if this is your first time, let's say a buy-to-let property, first time, condition of it, and you say to the person, all right, needs rewiring, plumbing, walls need skimming, needs a bit of work on the roof, and it needs painting throughout and carpets. Anyone that's done buy-to-lets will already be having in their head, for the standard that they want, they've got a ballpark figure. And if that ballpark figure, let's say, was 40,000 quid, when you come in and pitch your idea saying, I need £15,753.10 to do this, they're just going to look at you and go, I think, well, they might not even tell you. They'll probably just go, it's not for me. And you'll think, oh God, they're looking a gift horse in their mouth here. And, you know, what are they doing? In reality, what they say is, you haven't got a clue about your costings. You don't know how much you really need. You're underestimating, and this is going to go wrong in 6 months' time. When it hasn't happened, the refurb will be poor. It'll be part finished. They'll be scrabbling for more money. They'll come back and they'll want more money from me. It's messy. I don't want to be involved. And, you know, so the thing is, folks, you've got to be fairly realistic. Now, as I say, I'm in my scruffs at the moment because I'm working on this house, and I have got a fairly open mind as to, you know, how much I need. The property we got, but it didn't go through the mortgage route because there was effectively no kitchen, also subsidence on it. Now, I've dealt with subsidence before, and it was messy because it was like dig down the side of a wall and then just pour a ridiculous amount of concrete in. That in reality, is it going to work or not? Well, who knows? But at least you get a certificate that says that you're structurally stable, which enables you to get finance in the future. So this property, I knew there was going to be something. Now, I found a company that do something different, which is all to do with injecting resin under the property, and it can actually lift the property a little bit as well, but stabilizes it. I wasn't too sure how much it would be. I knew digging concrete would be thousands. This is a similar price, but there's no mess, and it was done in half a day. And I've just got in the last couple of days, got the certificate of structural stability or whatever, which, you know, you can submit to any bank, and therefore they'd go, oh, okay, historic subsidence now tackled, sorted, like it, you know, tick. And there you go. So my strategy could have been get this house, make it structurally stable, get the certificate and flip it on. And that could have been a strategy. And someone said, oh, right. I said, but yeah, thing is, I can't get a mortgage on it. I need to borrow cash, do this. 2 months later, I can sell it on or whatever. I can do some works, etc., etc. So you got to factor in some things that you might not know about, but somebody else who's done these multiple times would know about. Other things, rewiring, it makes me laugh. People sort of talk about rewiring. Well, that'd be 500 quid. And I'm thinking, you can't even buy the cable for that, for a rewire. And I've just spent some time chasing out walls for new sockets. And it's old Victorian engineering brick, which, my God, that is being, they made it out of diamonds, I think, on that stuff. It's
That was all
absolutely,
crumbly.
oh no, this is super hard. It's incredible stuff. So what I'm saying is that is taking a long time. Now, again, you get a Sparky round who looks at it and goes, I know how hard that's going to be, chasing all that out. Here's your price, £5,000 for a rewire. And you might have budgeted in your head 500 quid. And it's this kind of enormous difference, folks, that you need to overcome. Yes, if you put $3,500 in for your rewire and it was 4,200, you go, right, okay, now I need to save 700 quid elsewhere. And you're not too far out and your figures aren't too far out, but it's when people are absolutely miles out, they present a spreadsheet of figures which are just cobblers, and people looking to invest just go, right, you've read this off a website, you've done something, you've got no practical knowledge. It's making me question the previous one that Ray talked about, knowledge of the market and what you're doing.
Yeah.
If your pricing's not so good, it might be not happy and it could fall down. So really talk to people about current things. And if you don't know how much it's going to be, put stuff out there and say, okay, what's typical in this area for a rewire, 3-bed semi, and those sort of things. And just listen to tradespeople saying, oh, I wouldn't do it for anything less than $8,000.
Yeah.
And just take the highest figure and put it in. Build up that thing and get your worst case scenario and say, worst case scenario, this, folks, I'm hoping to bring it in at this 10% under, but there's my high budget. And there you go. So when you're unsure about the amount you need,
couple of things in that, Nigel. A couple of things is I encourage people to get a financial appraisal done, especially when you're talking about especially $100,000 or something. If you're talking about a very small refurb, it's probably not what you're saying is fine. But a financial appraisal is probably something that is required, and it's worth paying for and getting one done, very much so. There's a website called mypda.co.uk, and it was started by a couple of guys we know, Lloyd Gerardi and Andy. And mypda.co.uk allows you to put in information there. Now, this is for the building work only. It allows you to put in, the square foot size and all this kind of whether you're refurbishing, the type of property it is, et cetera, and that will give you a very good idea. It works it out for you. And the more you use it, the better it becomes. It is a subscription-based thing, but you can get a very long trial period if you want to try it. So mypda.co.uk, I would suggest going there to look at that, or get a financial appraisal, because prices are changing all the time. As we know, cost of labor, the cost of commodities and all the rest of it has gone through the roof. And it's a strange time at the moment, because we're getting to that bit where the cost to build a house now is exceeding in some places the cost to buy one. And it's a strange anomaly, but that's where we are. So you have to be sure about the amount you need. Now, that amount has to include legal fees, surveyors, accountants, your costs, all the rest of it. So, and don't whatever you do, and Nigel's the accountant here, don't change it to fit the amount you think you need or the amount you have. It has to be realistic. It has to be, realistic. Because if you do end up borrowing from a private investor, the last thing you want to be doing is going back after a couple of months and going, oh, I'm sorry, I've run out of money. And, now the whole thing is jeopardized. Can I get some more money, please? And we have seen that over the years, and it does happen. So you want to try and eliminate that as much as possible. So
Ray, just on that, when you're talking about fees and people putting stuff in, I've got two things. One that's just gone through, and one that is still in the offing. Now, one of them, it's a big deal, and the fees I've set aside are basically 17% of the asking price. 17%, folks. I know. I haven't stopped. Every night I go to bed weeping because I'm paying these fees already. And then the second one, right, get this, Ray. It was, let me just put this
Pause too
in.
long on a podcast.
Yeah, no, I'll just get that bit out. But here we go. Oh, the tension. I can feel it, folks. I can feel you.
Well,
Here we
in the
go.
country driving and get on with it, Nigel.
Yeah, it is 35.3% of the purchase price was the fees.
What?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What? And you budgeted 17, did you say?
No. One of the deals,
one of the deals. Right,
it is budgeted at 17%. The other one, the actuals were 35.3% of the purchase price.
Good grief. And that's in fees to whom?
Estate agents and legal and other sort of registering fees. There you go.
What? Flipping heck.
Yeah.
It must have been it can't have been a large property. It must have been sort of mid-terraced or something, 100 grand or something like that. I don't know, or 70 grand or something.
It is a large farmhouse and enormous barn.
Really? Flipping heck. Oh, well. Okay.
Yeah, that's I gotta say, people are now going, oh, where is it? Where is it? Well, we'll tell you in another episode. You're gonna have to come back, folks. And
all right. Meanwhile, back at this episode.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about 4 challenges in raising capital. We've already covered that you've got to have a clear vision, and we've already said you've got to have knowledge about the market, and then you've got to be sure about the amount that you need. So the final part, point 4 things, is you may lack skilled, listen to the words, skilled leaders in key positions.
Right.
So
right. This is
positions.
Yeah. So this is when you were saying you need to be a jack of all trade, but you might not be the master of any.
Yeah.
This is where in my head I was thinking this is why number 4 is important. If you can't become the master, you find the master for that thing.
The master, exactly, and not the Chinese guy with the long hair. You've got to find the master of that particular part that you're looking at. So it could be, I mean, what I always encourage, and again, I've done it with people this week even, is if you lack knowledge in a certain area, or if you don't like dealing with tradesmen, or you don't want to be herding cats, that sort of thing, then get in a cat herder, get in a decent site manager, or a decent person who's good at doing that. And they do exist, and they are there. And if you are in property communities, you will be directed to people. You just need to ask, and they'll say, oh, what location are you in? Yep. Oh, go and speak to Andy or Dave or Bob or whatever it is. And you can usually get their numbers, and you can call them up and say, look, this is what I'm about to do. Are you interested in site managing for me or overseeing it? Now, don't look at it as a cost that you're going to have, a burden, we should say. Look on it as a valuable cost, because they can be worth their weight in gold. Absolutely. We did a project that had a budget of just over £1 million, and we got a site manager in, and he brought it in on time and in budget, and booted bottom when it needed to be booted, motivated when it needed to be motivated, and didn't take any excuses. I mean, I was with him a few times when he was on the phone and he had it on speakerphone, standing outside the site, and he'd get some phone call from some scaffolder about something, whatever it was. And honestly, I wished I'd recorded it, because the language, he talks to them in a language they understand. Let's just put it that way. And they were left in no doubt that they had to be there at that time, because the knock-on effect would cost this. And lo and behold, they were there. And I was listening to it, and I remember thinking, well, that's a perfectly reasonable excuse. Yeah, okay, I'm sure they can turn up tomorrow, in my own head. And then suddenly he just let loose this tirade of like, ah! And I saw him do it a number of times. So yeah, so skilled people in key areas. And I would say that starts off with, you're putting a presentation together. You need to get the numbers together. That's why a financial appraisal is very useful. You need a surveyor possibly to do a red book survey, depending on the size of thing that you're doing. You need those professionals to give you some input into what it is that you're doing for you to be taken seriously. So if you are speaking to an investor, and we're talking here about investors in property, but also investors in various businesses. So if you're talking to an investor about a property, if you turn around and say, well, I have in my hands a red book valuation, which is, a very good one. And it's by such and such a firm, Jones Lang LaSalle, or, some of the other big boys. And it's only a couple of days old, or a week old, or a couple of weeks old, then you've got their attention. If you say, well, I have a survey here from 6 years ago from, Jimmy Smith surveyors down the road, then they'll not take that terribly seriously. If you've got that survey, but you've had it upgraded, and if Jimmy Smith surveyors happen to be, that's their main area, that's their gold mine area, as it were, and they know everything that's in that area, then that can carry some weight rather than the big boys who are all over the country. But, you've got to get key people in. And that can extend through to engineers as well. If you're doing things, if you're putting up steel work, anything like that, you need the engineers. I mean, people that are listening to this, if they've done these kind of projects, will know all that and appreciate it anyway. But people who haven't, if you're listening to this and you're taking a step up from renovating houses on your own to go to to something else, and you're getting to that area where you think, well, I need to raise some money to get this one done, then that's the 4 key things that you need to cover off. So 4 challenges.
Yeah, Ray, just before you do that, the one where the fees are kind of in the teens % of the deal, I got investors who are, investing, keen to invest in this particular one, because I said we've got some way to look at highways, ecology, bats, topography, trees, landscaping, orientation, traffic use, and about architects, planning consultants. I think there's about 12 different experts involved in that, rather than me saying, oh, I want to do this and I'll have a go submitting the design and access statement for the planning sort of thing, because people would have just gone, yeah, good luck with that, Nigel. See you later. But when you sort of go, right, okay, this person's organizing all these skills. We've got this person here. This is the team we're bringing together. We've got someone over here who's going to look at the project from outside on behalf of the investors, et cetera, et cetera. People go, okay, it looks like it's set up correctly. It's not a done deal. It's not finished. It's not there yet. But that was the only way that the investors were going to look at it and go, okay, this has some credibility about it. So, and there's no way, Ray, we've done this in the past. You've said, how hard can it be, and went away and became a solicitor. I've done it. How hard can it be? And I've ended up learning to plaster, do electrics, plumb, and other things, because it was kind of, we get to this point and go, well, that's ridiculous. So hang on, folks, there comes a point where you can't be a planning consultant, an architect, an ecology, a bat surveyor, a ground porosity sort of a surveyor, and all these. You can't do it all. You can't do it all. As much as us as entrepreneurs go, how hard? My wife just laughs at me. She just said, when I said I'd do electrics, she said, what? I said, well, I don't see every electrician had to go to Oxford or Cambridge. So how hard can it be? And I tell you what, folks, it is bastard hard. It really is. It's not easy. It's not easy. But there you go. Yeah. So get those skilled people in, instead of trying to train yourself, because by the time you've qualified and everything, you'll be 83 and you won't feel like doing it.
All right, let's wrap up then. So 4 challenges in raising capital. 1, you have to have a clear vision. 2 is you have to have knowledge about the market that you're in. 3 is you need to be absolutely sure about the money you need and prove it. And 4, you have to have skilled people, skilled leaders in key positions. You've got all those together, then you're away at the races, and you will put yourself to pole position. Because remember, investors, people, lenders, etc., they're being inundated. Nigel talked earlier on about the number of adverts that are out there and saying you can have money in 2 minutes and we'll put £1 million in your account in 24 hours. It's not going to happen. Now, they will quote you examples of where it does happen, because they'll always have these. But where it does happen, it's people they've dealt with before, people that have got a track record of doing it, people that they know intimately. They've been on holiday with them, or they've gone to events with them, or they've gone to the big event in the south of France that happens every year. And and they all know each other. So quite a lot of things are taken for granted, but they still produce the goods. They will still produce a clear vision. They will still say exactly how much they need. They'll obviously have knowledge of the market, and they will have a team of people behind them. So all of these things will be there. And if you can get them in place, then you will start to get up the queue. You'll move up the queue, and you'll be taken more seriously, and you're more likely to raise that money that you need. I have been Ray McLennan.
I'm still Nigel T. Best. We'll see you soon, folks.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the How to Raise Money podcast. It's made for people who want to raise money as debt or investment equity for their business or property proposal or empire. The website has all the useful links and underlying research, and you can get downloads of the checklists and other useful information. See you next time, where we can show you how to raise money. There is abundance. There is money enough for everyone on the planet. The question is, who has yours?